Okay, this will be the first video that's actually somewhat made for the new channel, and that's going to be a quick talk through of the bare bones outlining of somatic tinkering. Somatic tinkering is a practice of my own development, and it merges a number of concepts and fields of study that I think the intersection of would be rather useful. Tinkering towards selfhood, a predictive processing modeling for healing trauma through psilocybin, somatic intervention, and visual reframing. Introduction. My name is JD Alexa. I have spent my life immersed in creative labor, tattooing, sculpture, airbrush, graffiti, campaign building, music. I'm also a synesthete, a lifelong dissociative, and someone who deliberately rebuilt their personality through predictive framework through sustained work with psilocybin, somatic feedback, and symbolic tattoo prompts. This document isn't a call for belief, it's a blueprint for action. The ideas here have become emergent, not from theory, but from necessity. I had to find a way to make sense of my own experience and the experiences of others shattered by trauma, instability, and identity crisis. What I built is a living theory, a method for reassembling the self from within using the same tools the brain already depends on: prediction, correction, embodiment, and meaning. My goal is to share this framework with researchers, clinicians, and creators working in the intersection of neuroplasticity, trauma recovery, and narrative identity. This isn't just about psilocybin or just about trauma. It's about the brain's ability to become its own mechanic, its own tinkerer, when given space, tools, and the permission to rebuild. Predictive processing, the brain as a prediction machine. Predictive processing, the brain as a prediction machine. Cognitive neuroscience increasingly views the brain not as a passive receiver of sensory information, but as a prediction engine, a structure that consistently forecasts incoming data and updates itself based on the mismatch, prediction error, between what it expects and what it perceives. Carl Fritzen, I want to say his name as Fritten. I don't know why, I like it. It's Carl Fritzton, first ton, but for some reason I keep on wanting to say Fritzson. I'm not typically dyslexic, but anyway, his work on the free energy principle suggests that the brain seeks to minimize surprise by adjusting either its internal model or the environment. High-level priors, beliefs, self-concept, identity, shape perception from the top down, while raw sensation provides bottom-up feedback. Attention acts as a dial. It allocates precision, determining which signals matter most. Trauma destabilizes the system. It creates rigid, high-priority predictions about threat, rejection, and pain that override new data. The brain becomes less plastic, less curious, less able to test alternate hypotheses. The body tightens. The narrative narrows. Experience itself becomes a loop of confirmation. My approach begins here. If trauma is a disruption in prediction, then healing must involve deliberate prediction destabilization, a dismantling of outdated priors, and the construction of new embodied narratives from the ground up. This is what I call tinkering. Recursive, creative, grounded in lived feedback, and always open to revision. Disassociation and adaptive reframing. Most associate disassociation with dysfunction as an escape from experience, a fragmentation of self. But there is a deeper potential in it. When practiced with awareness, disassociation becomes a tool, a means of stepping outside reflexive reactions long enough to see the mechanisms behind them. Through practice to disassociation, one can reframe experience and observe how the body and mind react to internal predictions. This is crucial for interrupting trauma's loops. Where automatic behaviors once hijacked agency, a disassociative pause makes space for redirection. What once felt inevitable can be rescripted. In my case, disassociation was not a retreat, but a studio. It gave me distance to rewrite my reactions using visual prompts, tattoos inscribed on my hands, each one encoding a core idea or counterweight to my former programming. Each visual symbol interrupted the loop, offering new direction, a new prediction, a new self. Rather than treating disassociation as a disorder to be overcome, I offer it here as a substrate for adaptive learning, a space where predictions can be softened, rerouted, and replaced. It's not a permanent detachment, but a rotating mirror, allowing perception to catch itself in the act of construction and to consciously begin anew. Psilocybin as prediction error amplifier. The default mode network, or DMN, is, in the broadest sense, our internal narrative engine, responsible for integrating past experience, social identity, and self-reflective thought. It governs the habitual ways we process information, respond to stimuli, and filter reality. But the DMN is not fixed. It's plastic, especially under the right conditions. Psilocybin, when used deliberately and in the proper context, temporarily weakens the DMN. This makes prediction errors more salient, disrupting the brain's usual high-level narratives and allowing previously suppressed information, embodied, emotional, or perceptual, to surface. In this destabilized state, the brain is no longer locked into its default story. It becomes curious again. Here's where somatic tinkering enters. Trauma isn't just cognitive. It's embodied. The body holds prediction loops in the form of tension, swelling, and postural responses. Under psilocybin, these embodied loops become accessible. They can be physically felt as they shift, dissolve, or cry out for attention. If a person is trained or even gently guided to meet these signals with awareness, breath, and symbolic reframing, they can repattern their somatic responses in real time. What results is not simply insight, but mechanical change. The updating of core priors and emotional predictions through body experience. In my practice, this process was reinforced through repeated visual cues, physical practice of stillness or movement, and careful tracking of internal states before, during, and after the sessions. The mushrooms open the gate, the body leads the way, and the tinkerer chooses what to rebuild. Next section, symbolic tattoos as portable interruptions. Now, that is only as far as I got as far as typing up a formal, concise explanation and beginning to get into the actual specifics of the methodology and the reasoning and the implementation. I'm going to be just going back over a little bit of this before going into those next sections in another video. Now, what I mean when I say something like trauma destabilizes the system. It creates rigid, high priority predictions about threat, rejection, and pain overriding new data. Now, people that have traumatic responses, they are from a wide variety of events that are or are not similar to their specific traumas. It is irrelevant if those scenarios are triggering to them, then it is reducing down the number of potentialities that the brain can be perceiving as to what is actually happening in reality, down to this one thing that is happening over and over again. So it is reducing one's realities and limiting everything. But even if they are or they are not associated, because often a lot of times things that are only surface level similar end up triggering the same responses. That is now a additional time that trigger is being touched. Every time that the trigger is triggered, it is re-ingraining itself in an individual's manner that they brace, the amount that they are hunched, carrying themselves, the not relaxed and ready to move in whatever manner. And those build up over time, and they become the hump in your back. They become the forward way that one's shoulders are curled, and thus becomes physically constraining, ways that individual carries and is capable, with themselves. So what we first do is we melt all of that with the psilocybin and get into a state where all of that rigidity becomes jello, more or less. And very mindfully, we find physically where the root of some of these threads are, where the very beginnings of thought association begin to send signal to begin the beginning of the chain of what has become a rigid mass. But find the beginnings of that and pull out that thread of nerve, and then everything that has been shaped after that can be loosened and reformed structurally and sculpted back into one's body and redistributed and just with that simple idea of an approach, not even like necessarily tying it to specific trauma matters or anything like that. Just with um, as surface simple level of how does an individual like generally feel uncomfortable by the end of the day. Is it in here? Is it up here? Is it up there? Those are the places that you pay attention to first, and those are the things that you can roll out when the strings of nerve endings are plasted, and you can pretty much restack the manner that one carries themselves, and reshape a lot of things, and I think it really takes experiencing going through a configuration or two or three before it really settles on understanding the nuance of what feeling all of that in different places amounts to when it comes to you sitting in your own experience of just what does it feel like to be this shape that is now responding to whatever's in front of you. Um, and I find it endlessly fascinating to change around those, shapes and all that stuff to um, be a number of things that hears what it is to be me. If that last bit there made any like kind of concise sense right there, but I'm gonna I'm gonna cut this one off for now, and I'm gonna continue getting into my uh, um, practice, I suppose you'd call it, of somatic tinkering in the near future.